And good evening to everyone. We have a fantastic program for you today here at Radio Echad, South Florida's premier radio station here. We have DJ Shak FX and our wonderful Jonathan here together in the studio. Today's shir is being dedicated Le'ilu Nishmas, Rumia Basada, Yechia ben More, Yehoshua Najjar, Miriam Bat Chana, and Evod ben Nisim Mo'alam, as well as the Rafud Vatzachad Yitzchak ben Yechia, Yonah Bat Miriam, as well as Ored ben Yitzchak, from our wonderful DJ Shak. It's unbelievable to be here today, and we also would like to dedicate today's shir from my good friend Robert Moskowitz in Miami Beach. Robert has dedicated today's shir, Yud Ches Adar, in honor of his dear father, Shlomo Zalman ben Yehuda, an unbelievable person, someone in the Moskowitz family that to this day, both Robert, Ruli, and the entire family, they try to live to the ideals of what their father set, of being connected to the Jewish community, no matter where you are, whether it's in South America, in Miami, throughout the world. Knowing that the Jewish community is of prime importance was something that was always in the Moskowitz home, and we'd like to thank Robert for your generous contribution to making sure that this class continues. Also, we'd like to dedicate today's shir, Le'ilu Nishmas, my great-grandfather, Rabbi Yaakov Avram ben Yehoshua Aryeh, the Kol Korov, who is to this day a patriarchal figure in our family. From all sides, we all recognize that he was a tremendously big influence in our entire family, and we're very, very grateful to that. I'd like to share with you the Zera Shimshon's two ideas in this week's Parsha, where it talks about the idea of Vayakel. The Jewish people come together, and what do we celebrate? We celebrate this unbelievable idea of the laws of Shabbos. And says the Yalkut, the Zera Shimshon quotes, that specifically now, Vayakel, Hashem says an order, all the Jewish people should gather together, and I'm going to let you know, do not ignite a fire in any of the places that you lodge in on the day of Shabbos. And why is it specifically with a kihila? Why do you need to have everyone there? Says the Zera Shimshon, keeping Shabbos by yourself is a nice thing. That's laudable, of course. Everyone knows that when you keep Shabbos, it's a wonderful thing. But more importantly, when you keep Shabbos and it's with a kihila, it's with an entire congregation, how powerful and beautiful that is. There's safety in numbers, and when there's an entire Rav Am Hadas Melech, when there's a multitude of everyone keeping Shabbos, how powerful it will be. And he says that could be the medrash that tells us that because Klal Yisrael kept one Shabbos, had they kept one more, they would have been zeicha to Geula. Why is that? Because when everyone keeps the Shabbos together, that makes a protective barrier and a layer that no one could poke and no one could get through, and it's between us and Hashem. Beini uvenechem oisi lilam, says Hashem. This is between me and you, this very unique sign. No one else has that. But specifically in the confines of having a community, Vayakel, Hashem says, you are makil, you bring everyone together as one, and the central theme is that of Shabbos. If we understand this idea that Shabbos is something which is so important, it's so important to be part of the community, it's so important to be connected to the community, and Shabbos should be central to that, how beautiful our Shabbosim would look. If you knew, for example, that when you showed up to a shul, and that means you're part of the community, you would show up to shul. You wouldn't make like these mushrooms, these different minyanim in people's houses or in the side. No, you understand it's important for you to ensure that the community is strong, and where we attend on Shabbos is ultimately the key. Somebody told me a great line. He said, when you're looking, let's say, into families for shidduchim, the key question you have to ask, which cuts through a lot of the red tape, is where does the family daven? Where do they pray on Shabbos morning? And I add the little parentheses is, and also find out where they pray Shabbos Mincha as well. And you'll see why in a second. When people tell you where they daven Shabbos morning, that gives you a very big idea of what type of family they are. Is it a family that's part of the community? Do they go off onto their own? Are they part of these breakaways? What are they? Like, you get a good sense of who the family is. And it really cuts to the chase about a lot of different things, and it's remarkable. So that's number one. But I add Shabbos Mincha. Why? Because Shabbos Mincha, I always say, that separates the men from the boys. And you're going to see in a second, the Zera Shimshon has sort of an allusion to that, which I believe that's really what he's saying. In Siman Reish Tzadik Beis, excuse me. The reason why I'm mixing that up is because Reish Tzadik Beis, if you arrange it a little differently, spells the Hebrew word tzabor, or tzibur, or tzabor means to gather together as a tzibur, as one. over there, the Torah brings down in our Chaim, in Reish Tzadi Beis, he says that when it comes specifically to Shabbos Mincha, we say, Ata Echad v'Shimcha Echad. Hashem, we're now being Ma'ached. We just took a Friday night and a Shabbos day and a Musaf, and now coming to the culmination, Rava de Ravin, the height of heights, the most unbelievable Yemei, the Eis Ratzain of the entire Shabbos is Shabbos Mincha time, where we're Me'ached. We come and bring everything together as one in the shul where we are, and that really what separates the men from the boys. Do you show up to shul Shabbos Mincha? Where do you show up for shul for Shabbos Mincha? What does that say about you? Are you a straggler? Are you not a straggler? Is it important to you? Not important to you? And ultimately, if a person understands that being part of a kehillah is the central theme to Shabbos, you'll understand so much bracha is associated with that. So I'd like to share with you 2 stories that highlight this idea of having Shabbos with the tzibur. When you have Shabbos together with the community, how powerful that is. The first story takes place, Meir Anshel Rothschild, the famed banker and philanthropist. He was someone who was known, was a very big Yerei Shemaim, very aware of that he was carrying with great dignity the Jewish people. Literally, he wore it on his sleeve, and he was very proud of that. And he used to go from city to city, and he would make sure to always have a minyan wherever he went. And not only that, he'd have a private shochet, and he'd have a minyan to ensure that he would always down with a minyan. And the story goes is that Meir Anshel was one time in a certain community, and word got around that this very wealthy banker, the Jewish banker, the Rothschild was in town. And what happened was he was contacted by somebody who said that they have an urgent matter to tell him, and someone will come and tell him what that matter was. Well, naturally, he was very busy. Make a long story short, till the person came to him and told him what the matter was, it was already Friday night. It was already Shabbos, and he couldn't do anything about it. What was the matter? The matter is that since they found out he was visiting in that town, they said, oh, we know this Meir Anshel Rothschild. Our bank, unfortunately, is under financial distress. We don't know what we're going to do. So instead of us basically defaulting on all our loans and then going bottom up, we're going to sell our bank. The problem is, who has the funds to buy our bank? The only one that they could think of was Meir Anshel Rothschild. He happened to come through our community, so we're going to sell it. Now, this was a non-Jewish bank. They came to Mr. Rothschild, and they came with an offer. They said, we're going to sell our bank for 2.5 million francs. At that time, an astronomical sum, but since it was a bank, the bank was worth significantly more. It was around 8 to 10 million francs. But they were getting it at a tremendous discount because they needed the money and they had to liquidate their assets and they needed cash flow immediately. So they knew Meir Anshel Rothschild had the ability to give it to them, and they were banking on that, excuse the term. And they came to him and said, we want to offer it to you for 2.5 million. Meir Anshel looked at him and said, I'm really sorry, but it's my Sabbath. I can't do it. They said, okay, fine, we understand. And as they were walking away, they saw multitudes of people. And Meir Anshel turned to all the people and said, look, it's not just me that you're somehow intruding on, but it's just all the other people here. It's really not appropriate for you to come. Please, after my Sabbath, it would be good because right now we're all celebrating it together. It's like a community celebration. I ask that you please respect that. They said, okay, fine, we understand. Unfortunately, it was getting really, really bad. Why? Because when the messengers came back to the bank president and told him that he rebuffed their efforts to come with the offer of 2.5 million, he said, nah, I know these Jews. They're not really doing it as that. They're doing it as a stalling tactic. Come back to him and tell him you're dropping it to 1.8. So the person came back. Meir Anshel looked at him and said, what are you doing? He says, excuse me, sir, I know that you said it's a community event. He says, it's a community event. What are you doing? 1.8 million I'm willing to give it to you. I said, I'm sorry, sir. I really can't listen to you right now. Please. And he escorts him very benevolently out the door. I'm really sorry. He comes back to the president and says, sir, he said 1.8 million, and he escorted him out the door. These Jews, they drive a hard bargain. He said, okay, we're going to have to think about it. He said, when did he say his Sabbath is going to be over? He said, I don't know. The Sabbath is going to be over sometime Saturday afternoon. So Saturday afternoon, 4 o'clock, they come back, but it wasn't sundown yet. They come back 4 o'clock, and they said, okay, 1.4 million we're willing to offer it to you. And again, Meir Anshel said, I'm sorry. Again, it's part of the community. I can't do that. Everyone here is celebrating the Sabbath. We all do it together as one. I'm sorry, no deal. And he left. He went back to the president, and the president is now, by this time, he goes, okay, it's my third. I need the money. I don't know what to do. It's the 4th time. He says, you know what? I'm going to go. By the time he arranged his carriage and got his whole entourage together, it was way past Motzei Shabbos. It was around 9, 10 o'clock. He came to Meir Anshel's residence or wherever it was that he was staying, knocked on the door, and he said, Mr. Rothschild, let me introduce myself. I'm the president of the bank. I apologize for going against your Sabbath and the community and all that. I just want to let you know I'm giving a fourth offer. And the fourth offer I'm giving you is something you cannot deny. I'll give you the entire bank for 1 million francs. A million francs. Mayor Anshel says, okay, sure, fine. They signed the deal, everything. Then Mayor Anshel, after they finished the deal, when they were escorted out, he turned to the people who were next to him and says, look at how Shabbos protected us. Isn't that amazing? They came initially with a bank that's worth 10 times more than it really was. He says, I know this bank. All I need is just some liquid cash in it, and it's going to be able to continue to be a fantastic bank. He said, but they were so desperate to get rid of it, they needed at least 1 million francs. Hashem orchestrated they should come specifically on Shabbos, and the community as a whole rallied together and protected from that. And he said, this community is going to be the beneficiaries of such a largesse, and therefore I'm going to be donating a significant amount to this community. You see, when you have that, Shabbos is the bliss. Shabbos is what protects. Shabbos is part of the community. The bliss of Shabbos is literally tangible because everyone is keeping it. It's B'roiv Am Hadar Smelach, where everyone keeps it together. That's the first story. The second story is a little bit more of a recent story, and it's an amazing story too. Based on this idea that the Zera Shimshon tells us, that you see when we keep Shabbos as a collective whole, as people coming together as one, that gives such bracha in Shemayim that it's me'ein olam haba. And again, the Zera Shimshon doesn't say it, but I believe he's alluding to this. What does it mean, me'ein olam haba? Me'ein olam haba, what's olam haba, the world to come? It's the world to come where everyone is sitting. Tzadikim yoshvim va'atorseim b'rosheim. Tzadikim are sitting in olam haba. What do you mean tzaddikim? Every person in his own world. The answer is no. Everyone's sitting in a world of unbelievable bliss together with one another. Such an unbelievable thought process that you think about it, that we're all sitting together. Each tzaddik or tzaddikis in their own world, but it's together with other people like that. Other neshamas that are so high. You're sitting in an area of multitudes. When you understand that, it makes it so much more palpable, so much more real. And that's the idea as well. This story that I'm about to share with you is a story that happened quite recently, and the story goes as follows. Unfortunately, there were a number of mechablim, a number of terrorists who were planning an attack, and the time that they decided to strike against the Jewish people was specifically Friday night. Why? Because they knew it was right after their services, and after they would be psyched up and go to the mosque and get themselves all ready, that they're going to go up and meet the 72 virgins, and they're going to go al kiddush Allah, to take their life away and to sanctify and Allah's name and take all the kuffars, all the dirty heretics away from this world, and they're going to be willing to sacrifice their life and be a shahid, and they're willing to take that necessary step that they felt was so imperative for them. They psych themselves up, they're ready to go, and they're going to go Friday night into a shul. But the problem is they didn't know which shul to go to. They're going here. And one of them says, it was two people, one of them says to the other, he says, I have an idea. Let's go to the biggest, grandest shul, the shul that has the most people in it, to basically get the most bang for our buck, where we know for sure that when we go there, we'll take down as many Jews as possible. So they went to the Grand Central Synagogue of that city. I don't recall which city it was, but I know it was a significant number of Jews who were going to be attending Friday night. By the time they got their act together and they decided which one it was, the one whispers to the other, he says, but we have to make sure we're undetected. We have to come in, sneak in, be able to plant the bombs or with the vest that we have to be able to detonate and maximize our damage to sort of blend in with the crowd. No one will realize. And when we come in, boom, we'll detonate and we'll have maximum damage. So they decided they're going to have the vests, and they suited up, and they're getting ready to go into the Grand Synagogue. Each one looks to the other one, and they give the signal. They go, okay, now. They open up the door, and when they open up the door, their jaws dropped. Everyone literally turned around and now was looking directly at them. And they go, oh my gosh, okay, we give up, they said. They picked up their hands and said, okay, you won, we won't do anything, leave us alone. And all the Jews are looking at each other. What? And he says, oh my gosh, now you're pretending you don't know what we're talking about. Okay, fine. And they put their hands on the floor and says, okay, arrest us, please. And no one knew what was going on. A bunch of people realized that they're about to do something really, really bad. They quickly ran after them. They took together some talesim and tied it up, held their hands behind their back, and then somebody realized they patted them down. These guys were loaded, and they had bombs strapped to their chest, and they were about to detonate. Who knows what they were going to do? They immediately called the police, and they had them escorted out very quickly. And what was it? everyone turned around at Bayi V'Shalom at that exact moment that they walked in, and they were greeting the Shabbos queen, who as a tzibur, as a congregation, it now protected them. And the Arabs freaked out when they see everyone, when they walked in, suddenly turning around at them, the entire congregation. Must be you figured us out. But meanwhile, it's because everyone turned around for the Shabbos tefillah, for the prayer for Shabbos at the exact same moment. That was the one that brought the people salvation. When you're part of a tzibur, when you're part of a congregation, and we're all keeping Shabbos to the highest level, that means dressing properly. That means praying properly. That means learning properly. That means walking to shul properly, not using a scooter. And people are going to say, well, Rabbi Sova, people do that. No, I tell people one of three things. You're either sick, or think you're sick. That is appropriate for you to have a scooter. If you're a young child and it's very difficult for you to get to shul, then by all means, go ahead and do that. If it's very difficult for you to walk and you have a medical condition, okay, no one's talking about that. No one's disputing that. People need that. Or they live very, very far away and it's very difficult, maybe. But again, then it goes to the third one, which is you think you're sick. So that might fall into the medical condition. But you should realize every step you take for Shabbos is another honor for Shabbos. When you walk around, if somebody had a high-level meeting with an executive, would you come into the meeting on a scooter? The kid, they'll think you're a kid. You're walking in, whee! Like, what are you doing? Like, this is a serious thing. You have to realize Shabbos is like that too. You have to honor Shabbos. Are you honoring him or are you honoring him? Who are you honoring? You have to ask yourself that question. So as a community, if we come together and we're mechazik and we give tremendous encouragement to one another for our Shabbos, how blissful our Shabbos will be, how protective Shabbos will be. Once we understand that, we understand how blissful Shabbos is. That's Vayakel, and the central theme is specifically that of Shabbos. And I'd like to conclude with one more idea in this week's parsha. It says that when the Jewish people, when they decided that they were going to do different acts towards bringing the Mishkan, the personal residence of Hashem, whatever that means, the permanent residence of Hashem in this world in such a small space, Hashem's Shekhinah is going to come down in this small area. When people committed that they were going to do that, says the Torah, V'chol isha asher nasa liba, and any woman that carried her heart, b'chachma tavo esizim, she decided with great wisdom, she was able to weave off of literally the goats' backs and weave the tapestries necessary for the Mishkan. As is Zera Shimshon, we know that the terminology for tzaddikim is they carry their heart. And here it says that her heart carried her. As is Zera Shimshon, that terminology of the heart carrying someone else is used by Rishayim. We're talking about wicked people. We're talking about women who are so chashuv, so important, that even when they don't even have to bring what they have to bring to atone for the Egel Azav, like the Ramban says, yet they're bringing, and not only they're bringing, they're signing up to do whatever is necessary, the malacha or whatever it is, any creative work that they could get to be able to craft this Mishkan. They're willing to do it. These women are willing to do that, and you're saying the son Liban, that their heart carried them? How could you use such a disparaging remark? Says Zera Shimshon the following idea. He says, when somebody is locked in, that they get emotionally involved in something, which women are very emotionally involved, not to say that they're not wise, but they're guided by emotions. And if a woman is emotionally involved so much that it literally lifts her up off her feet. Imagine for a second, you see something that is so moving, so amazing, it like lifts you off your feet. You're somewhere else. That's what the woman felt like when they saw the Mishkan and they saw an opportunity to be able to build Hashem's presence in this world. Nasan Libad, their heart literally like almost jumped out of them. It wasn't that they were Chas v'shalom, Rishayim, that are guided by their emotions. The exact opposite says their Shimshon. Because they were so guided and so enthralled that they're going to bring the Shekhinah down in this world, it literally lifted them into doing something superhuman. What's that? The very next words. They literally were able to somehow, off the back of goats, live animals, they were able to take off the wool and be able to weave from that without even combing that. Do you understand what that is? They did not have to cut it. They literally took it off their back and were able to weave it and look beautiful. How do you do that? The answer is when you're emotionally involved, then you're locked in. Once a person is emotionally involved in doing something, everything else falls into place. You'll justify that. That's why, for example, people who do run and make sure that they do a smart dinner or any function that's, let's say, raising money. The purpose of the evening or the purpose of the gathering is for you to be uplifted, for you to be moved. And then hopefully you'll respond. So that's why people spend so much money on these dinners. Everyone knows the whole thing is a farce. Everyone knows that the people not necessarily getting honored should be honored. Everyone knows that the entertainment, there's no reason why we're having it. What are you doing? The institution needs money. Why are you doing that? The answer is you have to be emotionally moved. And once you're emotionally moved, then you can move. Then you can act. And I'd like to share with you a story with his concluding idea. The Chavetz Chaim was well known that he used to go knocking from door to door sometimes when he would feel that there were certain people, elements of the town that did not have, let's say, items that they were necessary for them to survive. So, for example, whether it be food or money or even firewood on the cold, bitter months in Radin. And the story goes is that one time the Chavetz Chaim knocked on one of the very wealthy men of the community, and it was bitterly cold outside. So the man opens the door. And he sees the holy Chavetz Chaim standing out there. He goes, "Oh, Reb Shiva, please come in." He says, "There's a family here." He's still standing outside. "There's a family here who needs wood because it's freezing cold." Reb, I understand it's freezing cold outside. Could we just please talk about it? He says, Chavetz Chaim completely non-pulsed, kept going. And if they don't have any firewood, not only won't they be able to cook and have anything, they're going to freeze to death. The children are crying every day. Rabbi, I understand it's freezing cold right now. Can we just please come inside because it's very, very cold outside? And not only that, they can get frostbitten and the children are crying every single day. He says, Rabbi, I understand that. He says, we desperately need to have firewood for this family. Otherwise, who knows what will be? And finally, the man goes, hold on one second. He pulls out a wad of cash and gives the Chavetz Chaim. Chavetz Chaim goes, oh, thank you. And he walks in and he shuts the door. And the man is now, by now, he's shivering and chattering. He sits down. He says, Rebbe, can I get their Shiva something to drink? He says, okay, if you'd like to. He says, okay, I just gave their Shiva money. What is going on over here? I would have given you the money regardless. Says the Chavetz Chaim, no, you wouldn't have. He says, because when you were standing at that door, at the precipice of the door, and you were right at the outside, you didn't feel what it was like to be in the cold, to feel the bite, to feel what it was like to be exposed to the elements. You didn't understand what that was. Once you now can feel what cold feels and you understand what it is, then you gave. But until then, if you don't feel that, you're not going to give as much. And I tell people this all the time. When I worked for Telz Yeshiva for a number of years, one of the things that they asked me to do was they asked me, besides for being in charge of alumni, would you mind going to certain cities and also collect door to door and help the yeshiva out? I said, sure, no problem. Just give me addresses for people and I'll be more than happy. I have to tell you, it was probably one of the most inspiring things I've ever done. Why? Because I saw people who treated me with dignity and respect. And other people, they're busy. God bless them, but they don't realize it. When you're on the receiving end, what that is like, it is such a humbling experience. You'll never forget that. You'll never forget what that's like to be rejected, or for people to make you not feel like a human, or people not to make eye contact with you, or even say, I wish I could give you more. This is all I could give. Is there anything I can help you with? When was the last time you had something to eat? Would you like a drink? Something like that. Talk to them like a human being. It makes such a world of a difference. You don't even understand. Even if you can't give of something, but if you give time and a little bit of attention, that's what people need. I can't tell you how many times people have told me that when they've come to me and said, you're such a special person, even though you didn't give me any money, but you gave me time. And to me, that's worth a lot more because you made me feel like a human being. You gave me my dignity back. When you feel that empathy, you can never let that go. So you have to understand the same thing as well. When you're emotionally invested, you can literally go beyond the natural means necessary, and you can literally take from the back of the goats and make such unbelievable, magnificent tapestry that only a woman could do. She's carried with her emotions, and she literally lifts things up and makes it go beyond what the realm of something normal could be. That's the idea as well. A person should be emotionally involved in whatever they are, and that will translate into tremendously successful things. So again, we spoke about, just to recap, we spoke about the idea, the bliss of Shabbos. That means together as a community, together as a one, as a whole unit. And we said the story of the Mayor Anshel Rothschild, that he got the bank on a tremendous discount because he kept the community, he kept the Shabbos together as one. Then we spoke about the second idea, we said the second story of people all turning together as one. When we band together and we turn together as one, it protects everyone. And we said the story of the second idea, which is that the Zereshishman was highlighting that the women who are emotionally invested, now they can uplift and now they can do fantastic things. God willing, your mitzvah Shem, if a person understands that you're emotionally invested in whatever you do, the world is yours for the taking. So my blessing, my bracha to every single one of you is take these opportunities. Be emotionally invested. Understand what it's like to be, if you were to be the recipient. What would that feel like? How would you go about if you had to do that? Maybe it takes time for you to actually try to understand, speak to the people, or even cosplay. Try to act as if you were and understand what it's like to be in that position. It will be mind-blowing. It will be so eye-opening for you. I challenge you to do that. And in mitzvah Shem, God willing, if you do that, every endeavor that you'll do will be so amazingly great. It will be beyond your or anyone else's expectations. Hashem should bless all of you. Have a fantastic Shabbos, and thank you for listening.